Good evening. I'm Kathy McCarthy, the Chief Operating Officer for the Texas Academy of Family Physicians. Thank you for joining us tonight for our first of 3 social media webinars. I hope you'll join us for the other 2. When we used to talk about providing social media training, it was more about the dangers and the things to avoid. And there are still risks and obviously considerations for using this powerful communications tool, but also great possibilities. As family physicians, you are a respected voice, and social media can be a way to use that voice and amplify your messages. Our speaker is here to help. Dr. Mike Sevilla is a family physician and has cared for patients in Salem, Ohio for more than 20 years. He's been involved with the Ohio Academy of Family Physicians, recently serving as president, and with the AAFP, where he served on the AAFP Commission on Membership and Member Services, and was chair one of the years that I served on the commission. He began creating social media content back in 2005 and shares his experience teaching social media literacy to fellow family physicians, residents, medical students, and others. In addition to his work on social media, he contributes to traditional media with articles in various publications and segments on his local news. You can see his contributions on his website, drmikesevilla.com. So the chat feature is enabled, so you can chat with each other or with me. And we also have a Q&A panel, and so use that to post your questions. We've allowed time at the end for Mike to answer those questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathy. And what I'm going to do is share my screen. I'll wave at everybody first. Hello. I will share my screen and we will get started. So thanks to the Texas chapter for the invitation. I've spoken at an event before and got to experience the great hospitality of your state at an in-person event. So thanks for the invitation back. So first, I just want to say I'm one of you. I'm a family doc, and I'm from Northeast Ohio, born and raised here. And I have a passion for communication and social media. And we'll just kind of jump into things. So I just want to acknowledge something up front here. And let me try this. I thought this was working. Why is this beeping? Okay, so I want to acknowledge something up front. So I have a lot of colleagues say, hey, you know, social media is not really what it used to be. There's this bias out there, and we're not really getting the real kind of information out there using social media, so I shouldn't really use it. It's not really useful. So I hope this talk can really address some of that and really kind of show you kind of the power of positive communication and how you can get your message out there using social media, using this platform. So I do have a few videos that I'm going to be showing you to help illustrate that. And here is the first one.
I treat people, not disease.
I build community.
I am a family physician.
I'm a leader.
I am a scientist.
An introvert.
I am a people person.
And I am all about my patients.
I serve the underserved.
I practice evidence-based medicine.
In a meaningful way.
I'm equal parts creativity and compassion.
What I do is sacred.
I make a difference in the clinic.
In DC, in the boardroom.
And I do it every day.
Every day.
I save lives. I improve lives.
And oh yeah, I live a life.
I deliver babies,
Vaccinate.
do procedures, and follow up.
Care.
I laugh.
Pray.
Hold hands. I say goodbye.
I ask hard questions.
And push for reform. Because I'm willing to fight for what's right.
For me, my patients,
And family medicine.
I am flexible.
I'm resourceful.
And that's what makes me powerful.
I listen.
I tell the truth.
I build community. I know your name.
I speak your language.
I am a husband.
I am a grandparent.
A wife.
Healer.
A parent.
I'm a teacher.
Veteran.
A soldier.
I'm a quiet advocate.
I give high fives. Hugs.
Smiles.
Deliver bad news with empathy.
Treat the dear friend and the difficult patient.
I find what works.
I am family medicine.
I am family medicine.
I am family medicine.
I don't walk away.
I never stop.
And I'll do it again tomorrow.
So usually when I've done this in person, usually like the whole crowd is like cheering and all that stuff. So I can feel the energy through the screen. But that's one of the ways that you can use this powerful medium, with video and social media, to kind of really get the message, especially things like, social media advocacy. In the first part of my talk, I'm going to just talk about just social media in general and about how it has been used in other kind of spaces. And recently, with the war in Ukraine, people have used social media to kind of communicate what's really happening, kind of behind the scenes there. I did this picture, a lot of people are familiar with their strollers at the train station, where they left them for the migrants who are getting off the train who had to leave their strollers behind. Very powerful type of imagery was also all over social media. More recently, the shooting in New York City, they were able to find this person's kind of thoughts and kind of a social media footprint that I'll talk about a little bit later. Kind of on a little bit of a lighter note here locally here in Ohio, that they have these council meetings that are broadcast on the internet, and the mayor of this local city here had some remarks about people who are ice fishing over the winter time, and that could lead to maybe not so great not so great things, but that became so kind of viral that this mayor of the city had to resign because of the comments that were spread all over social media. So there are some things that you have to be really careful of when you're utilizing this. And of course, those of you who follow sports, when Tiger Woods returned to the Masters, social media went crazy, very excited that he was playing golf again. And of course, the most notorious recent social event on social media was, of course, the Oscars. People were talking about that for 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7 days. So the real impact of social media communication is really out there. So that's really kind of the power of this medium. Now, really focusing in on family docs and family medicine. These are the 4 things that I'm going to be focusing in on this session. And I'll be talking a little bit, I'll be previewing the next session as well at the end of my talk. But what reasons why physicians need to know about and need to utilize social media. One, your patients are already using social media, and of course, everybody knows that, but I'll have examples of that. For me, I'm in private practice. I'm in an independent practice. We're not owned by any kind of hospital or hospital system. I use social media for my group, to market to patients, because that is a great way to kind of get the word out about your business services, whether it is certain procedures or about immunizations or whatever you like about your practice. Of course, patient education, and 3 and 4 go together, patient education and correcting misinformation. As we know, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I really think that family docs, family medicine really have to correct that on social media and, of course, in real life as well. Now, the disclaimer that I always tell during my talks is, I do not use any kind of social media to communicate with patients. I don't use any kind of social media for any kind of clinical care. I know, docs who are in, larger hospital systems, or if they're in a practice that has kind of a secure type of chatting function or email function with patients, of course, that's fine. It has to be HIPAA compliant. But in general, I don't tweet with patients. I don't direct message patients. I don't text patients, anything like that. I don't recommend that you do any of that stuff either. I like to share this because when I first started doing these talks many years ago, a lot of people thought social media was, sharing what you had for breakfast. And people who have been around for a while can kind of see the amusing type of things, about, hashtag donut, and I like donuts, and showing a video about donuts. But social media is really more than that. So to share a little bit about myself, like I said before, I'm in a group practice with 4 other family docs. Our population is kind of a semi-rural, semi-suburban type population. We're an independent practice. The practice has been there almost 50 years now. I've been there about 20 years. We're still independent. We're still not owned by any kind of institution or hospital system. And we're really trying to show that we can still do that. I have students that rotate with us and say, hey, you can still really kind of still own your own business. Not that there's anything wrong with being an employed physician, but I went to medical school just to be a small town business owner, to own my own practice, and I am living my dream doing that every day. This is my one of only claim to fame. This is an article from Medical Economics, and it's all the way back in 2010, when really things were starting to kind of go as far as social media and physicians. And do patients like your practice? People are always asking those questions now. And for those of you who enjoy TED Talks, I did a TED Talk. It's on YouTube, basically talking about social media and how medical professionals and physicians can use that to get the positive message out there to kind of combat all the negativity that is out there. For those of you who subscribe to Family Practice Management from the AAFP, I was a co-author on this article from 2020, so you can do a search for that, social media for doctors. That takes a little bit of a deeper dive than what I'm doing now, but for those of you who have access to that, you can read that as well. I'm going to center a lot of my comments, for people who are interested in, who don't do it that much as far as social media, because it's very challenging with some of these talks, because sometimes people don't know much, or sometimes people are intermediate level, sometimes people are advanced, but I really try to gear these comments just kind of more to the curious and trying to, who are doing not much or nothing. And one of the first things that I advise people who are just starting out is the most popular platform is Facebook, and this is my Facebook page for my practice. If you're looking for some ways to kind of start out, you can kind of check that out there. Now, getting back to some of the main things for my talk, why physicians need to use social media. Your patients are already using it, and this is some data from the Pew Research Center. And this is from, I think, the early 2010s, but I think that the data is probably even more concentrated now. You'll see number 1 there, 59% of all adults have looked online for health information in the past year. Obviously, it's over 50%. 35% of adults say they've used internet to diagnose themselves. Number 2. Number 3, 53% of online diagnosers have talked to a clinician. So, about half of people actually talk to their doctor about what they find. And I think that should be more. So there is some data out there as far as, what patients are doing right now, doing searches. Now, in this next slide, this is a friend of mine, and her name is Carrie, and she is a patient with diabetes. And she was diagnosed at age 6 years old, and this is her website or blog. called Six Until Me. And I want to show you kind of what patients are doing right now. That they are sharing their story on the internet. They are sharing to try to gather community for her, for other people with diabetes, because she started her blog because she thought she was the only one with diabetes, and she started sharing her thoughts, shooting videos, and she's gotten a really great community out there of people who share and who are going through the same things. And I'm going to share a video that she has on her website and show you how the effectiveness of social media can be for communication.
The noise, the noise I'm talking about, that song that the pump plays when it has issues and it needs something, wants to be primed or wants a battery or needs a hug or whatever it needs, that noise, that song is ingrained in my head. It's Pavlovian. I mean, I hear it go off and I immediately get angry. So I needed to switch things up to keep my sanity sane. So what I decided to do was to finally make use of the software. My first goal was to make a logbook, and like a real logbook, one that I look at on a week-to-week basis, not something that I jot down, feverishly in the endo's office. You switch pens that you're using and you try to like crinkle the edges of the paper so it looks like you have been keeping this logbook for years, and it looks so tattered like a pirate's treasure map, but it's not. It's the logbook you started and finished while you were sitting waiting in their office. You know the drill. That was the first thing I did with the software. But the second thing I did, and this was the part that oddly enough was most important to me, was I got rid of that song. I wanted to change this song, but I didn't have the owner's manual handy because I just didn't have it out that day. So I went online and I Googled how to change the song in my Animus Ping, and lo and behold, someone on 2diabetes.com had the answer. So I read through the thread, and I was actually able to change it within just a couple of minutes, and there were all these other songs uploaded in there too, so now I have plenty of options for when the beeping starts to make me mad, and not mad in like an angry way, mad in like a lunatic way. My pump is now not just trilling at me, it plays 80s music, and that brings me great unadulterated joy. I love my new song. It's reignited my diabetes techno joy. So now I can change the song whenever I feel like it, which is important because when this thing beeps at you, you need to listen and you need to take into account what it's asking you to do. This thing is with me all the time, so it may as well be customized. It may as well be something that makes me happy. And it's up to me to take the steps to make it mine, So now my biggest concern is making sure that the ringtone on my phone and the spazzy noise on my pump are not one and the same, because otherwise it could get confusing on one end of answering my pump if it calls, Hi, how can I help you? Oh, sure, you're looking to speak with my pancreas? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not busy. Hang on. I'm glad there are ways to actually make this feel like it's mine and it's unique and it's special to me, because it should feel special to me. It's attached to me all day long. Pumpy, whatever you decide to call it. So Fur-Elise is now forever banished from my home, or at least my pump, until I change it back. But at least I have the option, which is nice.
So, so why is that good? Why is that effective? And you can think in your head, it's just, it's genuine, it's first person, it's somebody who's actually going through that. And you really feel a connection to that person, So what would happen if we would flip it to, being a family physician, Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Sevilla, and this is why, I think immunizations are important, A, B, C, D, this is, or, if there's something that's going on in the community, I just wanted to let everybody know, I've been answering a lot of questions about, the meningitis, case that is at the local high school. And, these are the things that you need to know at home, so that these are things that you can use, to communicate your message out there. And people really love when physicians, especially family physicians, go out there and really tell their story and really share their knowledge. So so talking about Facebook, And again, feel free to drop questions in the Q&A while I'm talking here, and be happy to answer your questions later. So, so getting back to Facebook, so people who are really starting out, Facebook is really kind of the place to start if you're looking for one place to start. It is the most popular social media network, 2.8 billion people. And on this next slide, you'll see, interesting in this data from this website, the fastest growing, of course, on Facebook, is the age group 45 to 54, which is a lot of your patients. But interestingly, even though Facebook is the most popular and is the one with the most accounts, you look at this, and people who have heard anything about TikTok, you'll see on this column that the TikTok app is the one that is the fastest growing. And for me, at this point, I'm not even doing anything with TikTok. I'm still trying to figure that out. So that's why I'm kind of limiting my comments to Facebook, especially for people who are starting out. But there are a lot of different platforms out there. I'm not saying that you should be on all of them. For people starting out, or people who are doing this a lot, maybe just focus on maybe one or two where your patients are at, or where your community is at. And that's why the slide is up here. Now, why do we care about this? Now, this is more data from the Pew Research Center. This is from 2017, and this is a kind of a complicated slide. But if you look on the left of the slide, you'll see in 2017, 2/3 of U.S. adults get their news from social media. So that's another reason why I think social media is important, because a lot of our patients are getting information and news from that. And you'll see on the other part of this slide, where they're getting this at, and a lot of it is, on Twitter and Instagram, maybe YouTube, maybe a little bit of Facebook as well. So it is a little bit of everything there. But the big picture thing of this slide is, a lot of our patients are getting news and information from social media. And of course, a lot of patients are trying to diagnose themselves. This is one interesting slide, is that, trying to diagnose yourself, 90% of what's on Wikipedia is inaccurate. So whenever my patients kind of quote me something from that, I'm like, hey, it's probably not accurate. You should go to a more reputable website. Now, another reason why, social media is important is, when people are communicating, who do people trust? This is another complicated slide, but if you'll see on the left there, and I know that the print is very small, but, who do people trust? 78% trust a physician, or health authority. And then you'll see kind of at the right side is a celebrity is down to 26%. So all these influencers out there, even though they generate a lot of media, when you go to patients, when you go to communities, they still trust their physician. And this slide says that as well. This is from Gallup. And then the top two lines that you'll see on this slide are nurses and physicians. So, what we say, communities listen to us, our patients listen to us, obviously in person, but I would think that, if you can do that on social media as well, then that would also be effective for you. I wanted to share a couple of people who are doing really cool stuff right now. This is Rosemarie Leslie. She is a physician up in Minnesota. She's been doing a lot of stuff on YouTube and TikTok. So for people who are on those platforms, you can search to see what she's doing there. She does a lot, about family medicine and primary care, and so that's one of the champions that are going on right now that are doing really, really cool stuff. Another person that's doing really cool stuff is this is Dr. William Flannery, and people who are familiar with him, he goes by this complicated name, Dr. Glaucom Flecken. But why is he important? He's important because he has been doing a lot of really cool stuff using video, YouTube and TikTok to try to get messages out there. And I have a video that I'm going to be sharing here with you as an example of kind of the interesting things that he is doing out on social media.
I want to thank all of you for participating in this year's faculty Easter egg hunt. For the 10th year in a row, the pathologist was able to find the most Easter eggs. Congratulations. Second place goes to the radiologist, who, once again, only found the eggs that had no color. I don't even know why we have those. The emergency physician found a single egg right here. I found it. And then he asked the internal medicine doctor to find the rest of the eggs. I did enough. And the internal medicine doctor is, yes, still outside searching for eggs. For the 5th year in a row, the pediatrician didn't find any eggs because he was too busy saying, "Oh wow, look what you found," every time somebody else found an Easter egg. Everybody did such a good job. The urologist found 2 eggs. He's just been carrying them around in a little bag. It's all you need right here. The OBGYN brought 500 of her own eggs and kept dropping them periodically throughout the morning.
What?
Infectious disease found the most difficult egg. You got that right. Dermatology found the most expensive egg. General surgery immediately removed all the candy from his eggs and is now forcing Bill to put the eggs back together. Family medicine somehow ended up with no eggs, even though he was clearly looking harder than anyone else. Can I have some candy? And obviously, ophthalmology took all the credit for the eggs that his loyal scribe Jonathan found. And finally, we have the golden egg, which goes to the CEO. He's not here today. We'll make sure it gets delivered to his bank account, his home. To his home.
So not only does he, do, funny comedy skits, but he also does, some videos about health policy. He's talked about the pandemic. He's talked about burnout. So those are kind of some best practices that if you're interested in kind of seeing how they do their communication style, those are things that you can do. This is my own website here. Sometimes I do some commentary on some current events or what's happening in my local community here. So you can check that out. This here is probably the most important slide of the whole deck. And I know I just woke some people up out there. So why is this important? Because when I first started doing these talks many years ago, a lot of physicians were like, "Hey, Mike, I don't really care about this. This is a fad. This is not something that's really interesting to me." So I challenge those people and say, "Hey, I challenge you just to go to Google and put your name in and kind of see what happens." And a lot of physicians, they're unaware of what's out there about them. A lot of them think it's their famous physician of the year award that's going to be on there, but as you'll see on this, you'll see maybe 2 or 3 links down there is a physician rating site. And sometimes that is kind of what pops up at the top, which I don't think is fair, but that's kind of what happens. So you really kind of have to see, what's really going on out there. Now, how I try to advise patients on how I advise physicians on how they can be trying to proactive about this, is the creation of an account on something called LinkedIn, which is kind of a professional type of website where you can put your credentials and all of that. And anecdotally, it's still kind of true. Anecdotally, I can share with you that the LinkedIn in the past has kind of risen to the top of the searches. Because that's important, because that is information that you put in there, like, what's your correct office address and phone number and where you graduated from and all of that. This concept is called a social media footprint. And, when I have patients, search for me, and when they're looking for a new doctor, I try to put all the links that I control up there, like my website and LinkedIn and that type of thing. So if you haven't already, kind of search your name in there, see what comes up there. And there are ways that you can put the information that you want out there kind of more at the top of a search list. Now, getting back to marketing, marketing your business, marketing your practice, 70% of US healthcare organizations and doctors' offices are on some kind of social media. 81%, and at least maybe I'm just a little bit biased, but it's more than 81% of my patients who have researched me before they see me as a new doctor. So it is important to get that information out there. Now, this next slide is something I just found interesting for those of you who are in academics. This slide is from way back in 2016. But there's a lot of academic institutions who are valuing the work of social media or social media research or utilizing social media when it comes to things like academic promotion. So, so the value of social media in the academic setting is also out there too, if you are in that type of setting. And, as far as, research and social media citations, you can see how much it has increased, just in the past few years. So this is definitely not a fad, definitely not something that is kind of going away. It is getting more attention. And it's something that I really feel passionate about that family physicians really need to know about. And a really important thing too is having to do with family medicine advocacy. You remember from the first video of this slide set is that we can really use social media to say, hey, every person in America really deserves a family physician. And there are ways that people can really communicate that. For those of you who are on Twitter, who are familiar with Twitter hashtags and things, this is kind of data from the national conference from 2017. And what I want you to focus on is the column on the right. This is the numbers. And you'll see there that, over 1,000 people were participating, getting the message of national conference out that year, which it was equivalent to 9,000 tweets and 26,000 impressions. Now, that's not necessarily 26,000 people, but that is kind of a huge type of social media footprint where people can say, hey, what is this AAFP-NC, which is national conference? What is that? How can I find out more about that? What is the message that they're trying to get out there? So this is what happens when you can get just a small amount of people relatively at a conference talking about the same thing, family medicine, to get the message out there. Now, I bet you didn't know that social media could possibly help prevent the close of a family medicine residency program, talking about advocacy. This is a news story from 2017 from here in Ohio. Back at that time, unfortunately, every year we hear about family medicine residencies closing across the country. So here in Ohio, in addition to the Ohio chapter here, we really try to get the message out about the dangers of this family medicine residency program closing, the loss of access to primary care, to medical care in that community. We did that through, kind of hashtag advocacy. This was the hashtag that we used. A few weeks later, we had an Ohio board meeting, and everybody at that board meeting took a picture with this hashtag to try to get other people to spread the word about it. And I think we were able to raise awareness about this statewide, especially to the people in the Toledo, Ohio area. We were able to get noticed by the local news in that area to raise awareness. Ultimately, the residency program that year did not close, and I think it was because of raising awareness and making people know, hey, there's a real danger if this residency program closes. So I've used social media, to kind of talk about the importance of vaccines and how to promote them. These next slides are, things that people have to be really be careful of, because when you are an advocate, when you do put your kind of neck out there, sometimes people come after you. People know the negativity of Twitter. People came after me personally just with this. And you can kind of see the comments on this, that when you are an advocate, when you do stand up for what you believe in, sometimes people come after you and really take swipes at you, especially on social media. But I know that I'm doing the right thing, and there's a lot of people who are hesitant to be advocates on social media because of the negativity. But you really have to stay true to yourself, stay true to our patients, stay true to family medicine. And then, of course, now people are using social media to help promote things like vaccines, vaccine advocacy. People who are familiar with this kind of campaign, it's called "This Is Our Shot." People who are on social media are probably very familiar with it. There are a lot of family docs, a lot of AAFP members who are involved in this vaccine education movement. When it comes to COVID vaccines, I think it's been very effective. And if you haven't heard of it, I would encourage you to check that out. You can use a lot of their education in your own office, in your own clinic, in your own community to try to promote vaccines. And this is when I had my first COVID vaccine, and other people were doing that as well, as far as taking pictures when they were getting their vaccines. Just a few comments on the dangers of social media. When I first started doing this, half of my talk was on dangers of social media, because a lot of medical schools and residency programs only wanted me to talk about dangers of social media, but I'm just going to glance over just a few things. So this was a case of a physician in Rhode Island who was venting about patients, and she thought that she was kind of making the patients anonymous or not identifiable, but the community found out, and the community was able to piece together who the patients were and who the physician was, and this physician lost their job. This is something that happened early on when I was doing my talks, maybe 2010, 2011. So this is a nursing student, and that is a placenta. And back at that time, they were very excited about sharing this case with social media, saying, "Hey, I'm a nursing student and I was involved with this case." But obviously, things like this is a big no-no, not to do any of that type of stuff. And this nursing student was let go of her program. So never talk about patients on social media. There are stories every year about doctors doing bad things on social media. I think this was a neurology resident, I believe, a few years ago, got caught yelling at an Uber driver. It was placed on YouTube, and this person lost their residency spot. So a lot of bad things. The bottom line is, do never talk about patients on social media, ever. Never ever do that. So in some remaining moments here, so here's some social media tips for success. This is kind of previewing the second webinar that I'm going to be doing coming up. So I just want to touch on some initial topics here, and of course, as you have questions, drop them in the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to answer your questions at the end of our session here. So as I've talked about before, one of the secrets to success is being authentic. And you'll see on the right of this slide, Dr. Bouillon from Arizona, who is a well-known advocate of family medicine and social media. She is taking her photo with her following her vaccination, and she's sharing her thoughts and being an advocate for that. So that is very authentic. And of course, being engaging and active. People can share other people's content, or you can add kind of your own twist as far as we should really be vaccinating our community, and these are reasons why that we need to do that. prioritize one or two social media channels because, you can easily be overwhelmed by all the social media that's out there. So don't let that happen. And really, really share your story. What we know is that the public, our communities, and if you think about it, each one of us, we really love hearing stories, sharing stories. So share your story out there about why you love taking care of patients, why you love family medicine, why you love preventative medicine, why vaccines are important to you and your community. And a brief list here of social media do's. I'm probably going to be diving into more of this into part 2, but just to kind of take a high level list of this, identify yourself and speak in the first person. Never be anonymous out there. On social media, people can find out who you are. So identify yourself and identify your credentials. Take responsibility and follow institutional guidelines. Those of you who work for somebody or who are employed physicians, make sure that you check out your social media policy before you start getting out there and tweeting. Don't want you to get in trouble with your work or your job. Respect copyright, HIPAA and privacy laws. Stay up to date on current events. Be accurate. And know your fellow social media users. Use good judgment, be professional, and have fun and learn. And just wanted to make everybody aware that the AFP is also trying to be very proactive about using the social media platform and ways to utilize that. And these are my colleagues, Alex McDonald from California and Kim Yu from California. And we help, the AAFP help spread the word about primary care, about family medicine, about why it's cool to be a family medicine. We try to keep up on current events and we try to help AAFP with their social media. So that ends part 1. So thank you for your attention, and I will stop sharing my screen and then we can do some Q&A. So Kathy, I will hand things back to you.
This was great. Thank you so much. We have one question in the Q&A box. If you have others, please type them in. I have a few if you don't. So our first question is from Dr. John Gusson, and he thanked you for your time. And he wrote, with the increasing cancel culture on social media these days, how do you recommend we mitigate getting on the wrong end of it?
Yeah, this is a great question. Kind of a companion question is that I always get is that, hey, Mike, I have all these negative things on health grades. Like, how can I take them off? How can I do that? You can't really do that. I've had friends and colleagues who have even went the legal route to try to remove all that. You can't do that. How you do that and how you combat kind of cancel culture is to be positive, which I think sounds really Pollyannish, but I mean, that's how it is, and for me personally, how do I do that personally? I do have people in my community. I have patients who I've known really well. And I take the step and say, hey, can you post an honest review of our practice and of me? I'm not telling you what to say, but that's how you really combat that, how you combat negativity, because just think of like when you go to Amazon and people read the reviews there, people really, throw out the really positive ones and really negative ones, and it's something in the middle, but you have to have reviews there. And, we as family docs, we don't like to toot our own horn. I'm one of you, I know. But sometimes, we really have to go out there and be positive. And unfortunately, and I've done this talk for a long time, is that, we as family docs, we have let other people tell the family medicine story, whether it's attorneys, whether it's insurance companies, whether it's the media. We as family docs have to tell our own story. And if we don't tell our own story, then no one's going to tell that for us. So as far as battling cancel culture, battling negative reviews, family docs really have to get out there and try to generate your own positive reviews that'll balance those out.
Great. So I have a question here from Dr. Lane Aina. He's on our board. And he says that he noticed your Facebook page was a professional page. Do you have a personal page? Do you allow patients to be your friends? And how much do you interact with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's probably the most common question that I get, and it is a great question. So when it comes to friending patients, docs, there's really no rule about that. It's a lot of doctors' comfort level, and how the analogy that I use is, I live in a small town here. I have patients who are friends in real life. So when it comes to my policy is, I don't friend all of my patients, and I don't friend none of my patients. I'm very selective. And that has worked for me. There's some of my colleagues that say, I don't friend any of my patients. That's fine. That's your comfort level. Now, getting back to the personal versus professional, that's also a great question. So I do have a personal page, obviously, that's more geared towards family, and I do friend some of my patients. So the professional page is kind of the face of my practice. I post a lot of stuff about current events, about health information, stuff in our community. That's how I kind of treat that. Obviously, it takes more time. A lot of doctors say, I don't have time to do that. So if you can find somebody in your office that you trust that can post some of that stuff to your professional page, I would do that. But I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. I have a question. So a number of the people on the meeting today have been part of our leadership program. We have a family medicine leadership experience. And one of the sessions is on advocacy. And the person who does that training always says, when you meet with a legislator, tweet the picture of them and engage with them on social media. Have you had success engaging with legislators or other elected officials on Twitter or Facebook?
I have. Now, I mean, it doesn't give you that kind of like that one-on-one type of really direct access, but you have to raise awareness about yourself. And you do that, you're doing social media. So you would tag that person or tag that staff person just to make sure that they know that that you're out there. So I had a little bit of success with this at the state level. I wouldn't say I've had a lot of success, but that's the way things are. That's the way things are going. Well, especially during the pandemic. I mean, you couldn't even get any kind of in-person meeting with anybody. So using social media for policy advocacy is also effective. Is it, of course, as effective as in person? No, but it's another tool in your toolbox.
Great. I don't see any other questions. So I hope everybody is planning on attending the next two sessions, May 12th and then May 26th. And May 26th, we want a panel. We want, Mike wants to talk to some of you who are doing social media. So I have one person already kind of committed, who's pretty active with a Facebook page. But if you or someone might be willing to be on the panel, let me know. Also, be sure that you're following TAFP. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we use hashtag TAFP. So interact with us. We've really, the last 6 months, Samantha White in our communications department has really made our social media presence more robust. And I hope that if you haven't already interacted with us, that you will. And thank you, Mike. It was great. This was a great presentation. If there are no other questions, we'll end a little early and give everybody a little more of their Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, I guess closing up, if people have questions afterward, Kathy has my email. I'm happy to answer any questions that members have. I know there's a plan to put this video somewhere. If people want to watch it afterward and then send me questions, I really want to help you. And I've done this for a long time. I've made all the mistakes, and I just want family docs to say, hey, this is a tool in your toolbox to help communicate what you need to communicate out to your community. Your patients are using it. There's a lot of people who are putting bad information about family medicine, and really family docs can be champions of this. You just need someone to help you do that. I can definitely help you do that. And I'm really looking forward to our next webinar sessions.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And good night, everybody. Have a good
Good
evening.
night.
Good night.